36 watts. These are just regular cob LEDs, and then this is the general chassis right here, which is a two-part system. It comes apart, back together, and it folds.
Little hinges will go actually on the donut piece that holds everything. That's where it'll fold. But see all these? This was, I don't know how many hours of work. I haven't been keeping track because I would not be happy if I did. But all these are all the bus jumpers that you can set in there. If I can get one out. Oh, I don't want to get one out. Wait. You can bend them in half a whole bunch of times, but there's an example of a panel that I soldered.
Okay.
And I'm afraid I might have murdered this panel because I sat on it for too long. I've got a hot spot up here in the corner.
Okay.
So I wanted to test that before I left it back in the array. But that shows you, since I'm seriesing all the panels, each panel has to carry the whole load of all of them. So I went ahead and ran the tabbing wire. Because the tabs on these things are so, microscopic little dots with little tiny little lines. So,
okay.
So, yeah, that's what I was doing, and you could tell I didn't have the right iron. I was having to chase it along and stop and wait, and chase it along and stop and wait. It just wasn't pretty.
So your gun was dying maybe too at the same time?
Well, it's designed for turning on and soldering something and then turning it off. And the way that you do this, you have to measure this and then cut all these out, and then eat this joint. You have to hold this down and then anchor it so it stays where it needs to stay, and then you have to solder it, and then you put it down.
Okay.
And then 48 seconds later or whatever it is it takes to get this piece on and positioned and kind of clamped down and then soldered, the iron's oxidized again because it's not a temperature regulated iron. It's just a certain wattage.
Like a stick, yeah, just regular iron.
Yeah, I have one that's temperature regulated, but the tip on it is completely thrashed, and I don't have any wedge tips for it either. So I'm and I might have some wedge tips, but everything's kind of in totes and in piles and under stuff, and it's just not a good environment right yet. And my brain's just shot.
What are the ones in the little boxes again?
These are the batteries.
Yeah, the batteries, okay.
Yeah. So 18650s.
The mechanics of it are pretty. I mean, there's the software. I mean, there's already built in.
That's the DC to DC converter. And what's kind of cool, I've got that little fan control, the temp switch sensor. But right on the end of this DC to DC, there's a plug here that sends its output, I believe. No, its input. So when you turn power on to the DC to DC converter, this will plug in right here, and it's even polarity correct. And then the fan, whenever you turn this on, the fan will blow through that heat sink.
Okay,
so we don't even.
Fan, so it blows to those heat sinks right there.
Yeah, I was just gonna flip it over and lay out everything on the other side. So these panels, the bus bars lay along the edge. Like that thing that I showed you there, like one of them goes here and then kind of transfers around, and this hooks this string up to this string.
What's the bus bar?
All those things that I just showed you that I just took forever to dig out here. These little guys. Like say.
Oh, okay, those are the bus bars, the things that connect, or the.
Yeah, like say I think this one, I can't remember if it's this one or not.
Are those essentially like the positive and negative masters, or are those just what the?
These are bus bars. They're when you run them in series, which we need to do because these are only 0.58 or 0.59 volts a piece. Like so, this is a positive. When these will go down onto the bottom of the next one. So it goes positive to negative to positive to negative to positive to negative, and then the bus bar takes the positive, brings it over, and then hooks to the negative, and then the positive to the negative, and then positive to the negative, and then positive to the negative, and then the bus bar takes this, brings it over, buses it to the positive to the negative, and so when they come out, they'll actually be, the bus bars actually sit under here, and they're all arranged so. Like see, and then I'm not sitting it in the right spot, but they're arranged like see that won't short out, if that's.
So they don't touch to the.
Yeah, so that goes.
Like, yeah, so this is not going to touch this.
Right. Yeah.
There's no connection there.
And I've got pictures on my phone of how it's all laid out. I mean, this is like, I don't know if I'm like probably 50 or 60 hours into this stupid thing by now, but
Yeah, so
it's
for
just so
the hemp,
intricate. It just takes every little piece is just like.
so the hemp thing didn't work.
No, the hemp thing did not work because the substrate melted due to faulty fiberglass resin. I looked up online, and this is polyisopurinate. This is the same foam that they used to build boats out of and surfboards, and they use fiberglass resin and they use fiberglass cloth, and it doesn't melt the foam.
And this is hemp cloth here.
Yeah, this is the hemp cloth. It's probably $5 worth of hemp cloth. Ruined, but yeah, when I've made all kinds of shit. I've made subwoofer boxes for years and door panels and all kinds of stuff this way. And what normally happens is you have your substrate and you mix up some of the stuff. And I used a graduated cup, so I know I mixed it correctly. Mixed fiberglass thousands of times. I know how to do it. I read the instructions just to make sure it hadn't changed. And what normally happens is you mix up your resin and you've got 10, 15 minutes before it starts getting gooey, and it's just runny, kind of like syrup texture.
Yeah.
And so you pour that on there, and then you brush it all out, and it's called wetting it out. And then you lay down your hemp cloth or your fiberglass cloth or whatever you're using for your reinforcer, and you lay that down over the wetted out mold.
Mm-hmm.
And then I used I can't find it now, but a squeegee, and I was using this to try and go like along and spread this and push this into that. And man, I mixed that stuff up. I went what, put it on there, and I started spreading it out, and it started just rolling around and just turning into goo and just fucking like 30
dying.
seconds, a minute. You know, it's supposed to have 10 minutes of going off time. And so I tried to spread it out as quick as I could, and it got all gooey and like nasty. And then I noticed that this was getting really hot and just kind of getting really squishy.
Chemical reaction,
so
melting.
I knew it wasn't going to work, so I kicked the back door open and pitched it out because I couldn't breathe. And I'm really super, super sensitive to that shit now. And my respirator straps broke, so I was kind of trying to hold this to my face like this and do the whole. But yeah, that failed. If I were to try that process again, I would order foam not from Home Depot, and I would buy resin not from Home Depot. And when I realized that this was all fucked up, and after I threw that out, I turned around and looked at the fiberglass resin, and it was bubbling, and the fucking container was hot, and it shouldn't even be warm because there's no catalyst in the resin. The part that I hadn't mixed, like the rest of the bucket. So you might be able to get your money back. I think what happened is maybe somebody bought that
And mixed it.
and yeah, and maybe put a drop of hardener in it, and then put the cap back on the hardener, and like, this ain't gonna work, and returned it or something. Because it shouldn't have done that. Like I'm just like, oh my God. So
Yeah, it's been one of those weeks.
oh, it's been one of those 2 months. So I guess I'll set that. I didn't want to put that in the box with the panels because I didn't want to break the other ones. I think that one's ruined.
Just because of the burn spot.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll make it something else.
And
just
yeah, it might not even put out voltage anymore because usually if you discolor the actual panel, you've at least hurt its capacity, if not killed it, which sucks. But that's why you get more than you need, especially when they're that thin. Holy shit! And like, if like when it's time to put more of these down, like all the dust in the shop has to be gone. Hands have to be clean.
okay.
Everything, because like if there's a fucking microscopic pebble of dust right here, and that's sitting there, and you push down with any pressure at all, if there's a pebble under there, like not even like a pebble, like a speck of dust.
Yeah.
Under there, and you push down on it with the iron, just the panel just breaks, just shatters.
Okay. I like the design of or like the settingness of what you did with the this.
Yeah, the thought is that 093 plexiglass get cut to sit in here, and then get siliconed in here, and then this edge can get stained or something like that to make it waterproof.
Oh, okay. That
then,
makes sense.
Yeah,
That can
then,
do that.
Yeah, maybe a UV clear or whatever. But that plexiglass stuff,
What is that?
it's real. I kicked something over
Okay.
here. It's really thin. It's like this thick. That was cute. Look at that
Okay.
little guillotine on the toes.
Hmm.
It's really thin like that. You can actually cut it with a razor knife.
Okay, so just get it exact, trace it, cut it exact.
I wanted to have the razor knife or the Lexan or Plexi. Lexan is better, but it's way expensive.
And this is the thinnest plexiglass I can get, pretty much, right?
Yeah, it's really really thin, and all it's supposed to do is protect these really. So I thought about maybe putting little dots of hot glue or maybe little O-rings or something like that, or little rubber stops ever so often to kind of get these corners. See how you get a spot in all these corners
Mm-hmm.
to keep the plexiglass up,
Mm-hmm.
so it's level. It's not like.
Okay.
But I thought about doing that, and then another option would be to, when you get these all in, pot, because you've got a nice little pool to catch stuff now.
Yeah.
If we do get good resin that works, that's clear, you could put all this in, get it all wired, and then do the math, and calculate by how tall and how many squares there are. You can figure out pretty much exactly how much of that resin that you'd need, and you get this all built, and you pour that resin in there and spread it out really evenly and let it self-level.
Okay.
And that might, you might have to sand it and buff it out and make it real smooth, but that would make the most waterproof and longest lasting.
All right.
Because that would seal the wood substrate and all that too.
And like you say, it doesn't necessarily have to be waterproof, but definitely water resistant.
The top needs to be
waterproof.
Yeah. So that and another thing you could do with the Lexan is screw it in. You could put little washers, little tiny washers, and little screws at the corners, and a couple little O-rings on the top of the screws or something, and screw it in. But you generally need room for it to expand and contract. But with the Lexan or the plexiglass being that thin, I think you could just cut it slightly smaller than this,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to end up happening anyway, so it fits inside and give just a tiny, like a fingernail width gap
For shrinkage
and expansion, and then using like the clear silicone around it will let it
have the ability to
move a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, if you mount it to the top and you put screws in it, you drill the hole slightly bigger than the screw, so the panel can grow and contract without forcing itself on the screw.
So drill the hole slightly bigger than the screw cylinder.
Yeah. If you do want to screw it down, you can.
All right.
This panel, it might be sacrificed already. I think I just cracked it.
I'll see if I can wire it into something else.
Oh, shaky and evil.
That's low. Something that's like a low wattage panel. I'll see if I can get it. I'll test it.
Yeah, and the top is the positive and the bottom is the negative. And then I got pictures of this too, I believe, as far as the layout goes. But this is the bottom, and there'll be a little gap between them. Actually, there won't have to be a gap between them when it's extended because it folds back this way. But I had it set up so DC to DC was close to center.
Fucking splinter.
Oh, good story of my life. I'm surprised I still have toes.
Fan goes into the DC to DC converter then.
Yeah, points into the end of that. The inverter actually kind of blows my mind. I disassembled it, and it has a fan built into it.
Okay, so the inverter has a fan already built in.
Yeah, it's got its own fan, so it'll go right here.
So you can put it right next to the DC to DC converter.
Yeah, because this is actually going to be enclosed, because that's no user serviceable parts inside, and then this will be kind of the edge of the donut, and then the USB port. I just took the cigarette lighter socket off, and the positive wire will solder on here. This will come off, and these will come off, and the negative will solder there. And see, you can same positive and negative here and there. Point, point, exactly just like that. And then this output of the DC to, or the input to that goes to this DC to DC converter here. That bumps the voltage up to keep it nice and steady at 14 volts until the lithium can't put out anymore, because the lithium pack doesn't quite put out enough, or it puts out 12.6. And then this I figured would go there, and then these go here. And on the battery side of things, and that little fan control thing, I think that's extra complication we don't need after looking at this. But yeah, the batteries, I just left them in the square packs so they don't roll around, but there need to be either 3 series, 4 parallel, I think it's, or 4 yeah, my brain's just completely fried. But anyway, the battery, you know how the panels go positive to negative to positive to negative to positive to negative, so
yeah,
all their voltages add up. But with the batteries, they're 3.7 volts a piece, so we want 3 of them in series. And so these will go like this, positive to negative to positive to negative. And then these positive to negative, positive to negative. So they'll go, is it 4S? 4 point, no, it's 3S. Because they're 4.2 volts completely charged. So 3 times 4.2 is 12.6 volts is what the battery pack will be topped out at. So you have right here 12.6 volts, 12.6 volts, 12.6 volts, 12.6 volts, and then you hook these positives all to one and go into this.
Into the DC to DC converter?
Yeah, or through, actually, you go out of that, the switch. That's
so all these batteries hooked in the series, they're hooked in, the positive and negative come out of that.
3 in series.
3 in series.
4 in parallel.
4 in parallel. Okay.
Yeah, and then the on-off switch will fit right nicely right here. Output of these will go to the on-off switch.
The output goes to the on-off switch.
Out of the on-off switch goes into the DC to DC converter.
Okay.
When you turn this on, this all comes on. This is all alive. The lights, since the lights are operable at lower voltages and are so freaking bright, the lights will go in an array, like so, on there, 2¼ inches from the edge, I believe I determined, and one more will go here.
2¼ inches from the edge, okay.
Yeah, this edge here, and then at 30-degree angles, because there's 6 of them. And that puts 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3 for the lights. And what I wanted to do with the lights was have the lights run into the donut in the middle here, and have a wire that comes off of this, straight off the battery pack, and then fans out, has 6 wires tied into it, and each one of those feeds a switch. And that way you can run the lights without having to run all this crap.
Okay, so that would go directly from the batteries to those light switches going to the lights after that.
Yeah, and if you want to put one more master switch in here, you could have get one more like this, run the output of these to both of these, run one out to the DC to DC converter, run one out to the lights. And that way, if you want to turn all the lights on, you don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can just leave the switches on and turn the switch, and then they'll all come on.
Okay.
And if you just want a couple off, you can turn a couple off, or turn it all down to down to 1 if you want to. And the switches, I was thinking, would go either in an array, like, because the battery, I figured the battery box little thing could be like this. So the switches could go like in an array here, ding, 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 and then you'd have your 2 over here, and then here's where all your stuff would plug in.
Okay, so the battery box right here, and you're saying those either the 6 switches right here, or
like these little, not these, because these are momentary. They got us. They are switches. They are momentary switches. Yeah, so we got what, maybe 6 of these guys. Thinking, kind of around in an array, right there, or something like that. Or you could put 3 in this piece and then 3 over here if you want.
Really, anywhere.
Yeah, I mean it's better if they kind of like if that one shoots that light and this one turns on that light and that one you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then stick one over here and one over there, one over there.
But I could essentially put one on the top if I wanted to, and one on the bottom. You know, I mean, if this cohesive, I mean, it's possibility that could be, just as someone had on the top or the very edge, and then the rest in the inside, just so like in case they don't want to reach in the inside of it. Which I know it sounds weird to someone that would not want to do that, but maybe if it was like hanging up and the edge was closer, I don't know.
Yeah, I just put all
Probably,
your electronics right here.
All right. So
then all these wires. What I wanted to do is I've got this little router attachment that for the Dremel that you can cut notches with. So I wanted to trace these out and notch down just the width of the light, not all the way through the board, because then you'll get into the solar panels on the other side.
Yeah.
But just down 1/8 of an inch or so these will recess in there, and then the little wires will recess in there, and they'll go straight into the.
Okay, so and then it'd look cool too.
Yeah, it'll look way nice.
It's not going to snag on anything that way if they're
Oh
recessed.
no, yeah, the wires definitely are going to be, or that's what I wanted to do was inlay them, in a groove. And then maybe epoxy over that or something like that, and scrape it off to keep them in. And another thing too, I noticed with these are a really super deal. Like Johnny's going to order a bunch of them tomorrow. But see how they've got the wire is just a really thin kind of crappy wire, and it's touching metal right there. That's fine for now, but if this shakes and vibrates all around, this wire will break off or get cut by that metal. So
and short out.
Yeah. Okay. So they really need to be
maybe reinforced.
Well, they just need to, like, if they were set into a groove here and then glued into that groove, they'll never fail. But if this is like able to move and this is able to move, that'll fatigue.
Okay.
But that's. Did you see one of these in the nighttime yet?
No. Oh yeah, I want to see. In the darkness, which this fucking camera definitely doesn't see shit.
Let's see.
Oh gosh, it's cheap digital camera.
All right.
I see this actually.
Huh?
I think that's pretty good actually. That's because it has a light on actually.
Can you hold the LED?
Ow! Fuck.
Is that positive? Yeah, this is a funny way to do it.
Is this the Jesus moment?
Yeah, let's see. Close your eyes. I can't see. It's funny, I'm trying to hook up a bright light and I can't see.
Wow.
Ah.
Do they put out heat?
Yeah. They'll get about 95 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah, so imagine 6 of those.
Holy donkey dick bat.
Look how far that light's going.
Well, I'm glad that there's light switches on it.
Well, yeah, that's why, if you want to hang it up 40 feet in a tree and turn all 6 on, you can light up a festival. But if you just want to hang it in your living room and turn one on, or you can totally read and do whatever you want by one light on it.
Great work. So I think with you're saying it's going to charge us around 2.6 hours of the batteries. I'm definitely going to make a pop out thing.
I've squeezed 2 more solar panels onto it, so it's actually going to be a little bit less time. It's 91 watts now.
Cool.
So almost 100 watts.
Cool. I mean, even though there's those options for the batteries, like all kinds of different external batteries charging systems now, like you said at Walmart and stuff.
Yeah.
I still want to get like a battery pack that's like, even though I'm not going to patent it, just like some type of generic.
Well, they have battery packs that look like this, and it's just got a port for a USB, or a port or a cigarette. The bigger ones are like this big, and they have a port for a cigarette lighter out, and they got big old jumper cables that plug into them and stuff, like heavy duty ones. So these will be built in, and the hardest part of this thing is going to be building the battery enclosure to hold all those. I actually went to the hardware store and bought some little springs Yeah, that I was gonna. They're ridiculously expensive, so
How much are those?
they're like what are they, $1.69 a piece or something stupid?
Yeah, so. Okay, but yeah.
$1.39 a piece.
What if I just took?
And they were the same price for short ones or long ones, so I got long ones, and I was gonna cut them off, just with my little grinder, cut them off like in half-inch things, and cut 6 of them out to push on the ends of these.
What if I just got a
8 of them.
generic battery box, like a battery charger box, and then just use that chassis, and then just rewired it, you know?
Well, yeah, you don't have to rewire it. If you just want to, if you want to go and get a auxiliary battery, like a 10 amp hour auxiliary battery bank.
Yeah.
It's not going to have the oomph to start your car because they haven't designed that. These things will put out 20 amps a piece, continuous, or up to 60 amps burst. So being 4 in parallel, that'll put out 240 amps.
240 amps, 4 in parallel.
Straight out of the battery.
3 in series, 4 in parallel. This is. Oh, look at these batteries. What kind of batteries are these again?
They're LG 18650, and they've been relabeled. They're, you're going to want to test the living crap out of them before you decide on which manufacturer you're going to go with.
Well, that's just
sometimes people sell old ones that have been relabeled, and Yeah, but that's when you do that, you've got to monitor the individual voltages on the battery pack. I've got a little thing called a battery. It's a Hobby King little battery monitor thing that, for prototype testing, you would want to hook up to it, and it'll monitor each one of the cell strings. And that way you can see if one of them is going low and all that stuff.
Okay.
But like that guy, my friend of mine that worked for Zero, he would get these from every different supplier he could find, and he'd put them all, and he'd charge them all up to the same level, and run them through a certain amount of cycles, and charge them and discharge them before they even install them in a product. And the ones that did the best, they would go with that manufacturer or that supplier.
Okay.
And then when they get the batteries, they still would go through and QC them on a regular basis to make sure they're not getting shipped bunk ones or new old stock, or like a lot of times, like with the pouch cells specifically, you'll order 100 of them and 10 of them will be bad. Okay. But they won't show up for a month or two, so you have to put them in, pre-stress them before you stick them in the product. These are pretty fucking reliable. These are they've put these out. These 18650s are pretty reliable as far as if they do fail, they don't really hurt anything. They just quit working.
Okay.
They're real safe chemistry, and they've got the protection built in. Or they dang well better. It looks like they do. See on the end there's an extra circuit board in there that keeps the battery from getting overcharged or over discharged.
Okay.
And so you've got the protection there. Oh, and the MPPT charge controller is in the little white box there, but it can just go right here.
Okay.
So
it's going to go on the battery bank.
Yeah, the battery. So you're going to have wires from these solar panels that jumper over through one of the little jumper box things with the speaker terminals, and then you're going to have, so the wires from these panels here are going to have to go. These panels, wires from these panels combine with the wires to those. So you've got 2 jumpers that come over, and they go into this MPPT, and then you've got to run out of these batteries to come into here to go into the switch and then into the charge controller. So you've got 2 push terminals, 2 push terminals, 2 push terminals, 2 push terminals. So you need 4.
Okay. Push terminals.
Yeah, the speaker terminal things.
Yeah. I ordered those, so those are on their way.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking with those. Is maybe
you're thinking what like one here, one here, one here, one here, one here.
Yeah, because you want them separated, because you don't want somebody hooking the panels straight to the
wrong one.
Yeah, you don't want somebody hooking the batteries to the panels or the.
Okay,
so if you put those two and and you match them, so the positives actually, it says positive, negative, red, black, but this one's actually going to be a negative going to a positive, and then this one's actually going to be the main positive out, and then the main negative out will come from the jumper on this panel. So you'll have positive to negative, and then positive to positive, and then negative into the charge controller.
Okay.
But that was, and what I wanted to foam that doesn't melt, and cut out, you know, this is actually, there's going to be a little gap here to make room for the little wire push terminals. That I was thinking putting them on the back side of the little enclosure, like so they're right here, right there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you want to hook it up, they stays hooked up all the time. But if you need to replace the wire, you just fold the panel over and push the terminals and put a new wire in.
Okay.
And that way the terminals and the wires are not out in the middle of everything. They're actually contained right in between these two. So there'd need to be a tiny space between these two panels here. But yeah, I mean, you cut a hemisphere out of the foam and then cut the center out of it, and there's your, you know, wet it out with a little bit of epoxy or whatever, stiffen it up, and there's your walls for your enclosure.
Okay.
And then just a piece of this thin stuff, or a piece of aluminum or something like that for the lid. And same thing over there, you know. And you could also do it with, like, you know, take plywood and cut out 3 or 4 of them to stack it up to get it the right height.
Okay.
And then glue them together, kind of like I did the layers on this.
So laminate them and...
Laminated plywood, yeah.
Ow.
That would probably be the way to do it. But yeah, it's like, I've probably got another 20 hours, 30 hours in to do it, realistically, at the pace. Nothing goes right. Half of my tools are in that berm back there from me.
He had a big project with his trailer ahead of time.
But yeah, that's I'm looking at it like, you know, it seems like it shouldn't be more than 4 or 5 hours to finish it up, but everything with just wiring up those little solar panels is really, there's 24 of them, each one takes 10 minutes or so.
That's it?
You know.
It's like I get a good gun with a good temperature control. What temperature do you think I should use?
I don't know, turn it up so the solder melts.
Have high, not like...
Yeah, you want it to be, well, it's
higher than...
It's weird. Like I like soldering irons to run really hot because I can move fast with it, you know. But the hotter it is, like if you have it not hot enough and you lay it on here, that's what happened with the one that got hot. Is if it's not hot enough, before it gets this hot, this little thing hot enough that the solder will stick to it,
Mm-hmm.
it spreads the heat out into the whole panel. But if it's super hot and you lay that, you paint it with the little pen. This little pen. So before you solder, you draw with you shake this up and make sure it's wet, of course.
Okay,
and then or it pushes in, does this kind of thing. But you draw over that and see how it left a little coating.
Yeah.
That's actually the. I just said what it was, but my brain won't let me say what it is now.
The flux.
Flux. Yeah.
It's a flux.
It's a flux pen. It's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Rosin flux. But yeah, you lay that out on there, and then you lay your piece on there. And what I used was the little forceps, like this. And I would lay my tabbing wire on. I can show you how to lay a little tab wire on this.
Yeah.
If you want to see with my iron.
I'm gonna have to practice on something else, or have someone who's better steady-handed than myself do it. I've soldered a bit, but not in years.
Oh God, it's ultra tedious.
Yeah.
And if those panels were like a millimeter thicker, it wouldn't hurt anything.
It's just,
I can't believe they're that thin.
Yeah, it's almost like you put a piece of paper.
Yeah. Let's see. So
I mean, it is pretty much just thin, almost the same width of paper.
So this iron, I love it, but it needs to constantly get used, or it just cooks itself. You need to use it and pull the heat off of it, or turn it off in between every single joint, or it that panel almost cracked for me.
Oh, this is terrible.
Running over a piece of grit. So, see, the tabbing wire never sits down quite flat, which makes it tricky. I spent a lot of time bending the ones that go under it flat. But you hold that on there, and then define your soldering iron first. But the problem with this iron is it already smells like melting rubber, for one. Smell that wonderful smell? See how the end is all black and oxidized?
Yeah.
So you gotta see how it barely melts solder and it's all weird. You gotta get that and get a bunch of flux on it and clean it off pretty much between every joint.
Some steel wool. Is that all that
That's
is?
brass.
Brass.
So you push that down till it's flat, and then if this had a wedge tip, it would sure be easier. But you put that on it until you see it start to pool, and then you move it. But see how it's not working?
Okay.
My iron is not transferring any heat at all into that because the tip is, I don't know.
I have a new one. It's pretty generic though.
Yeah, you want to, a Hacko temp controlled station would be the way to go, but those are $80. But actually what I did here, see I put a little blob of solder on there. That transfers the heat right in. And then you move it along and see how the front edge of it's pushing.
Mm-hmm.
And you just drag it right down. But that's the process of doing. See, I got that wire definitely on there.
And so it'll pick up then.
Yeah, that's soldered on.
Wow.
That's how you do it. So you go over the top of one and then off the edge and then onto the bottom of the next one. And what I finally came to the conclusion as I was doing them, flipping them over and moving them all around, it's really hard to get the gaps even.
Yeah.
So what I was going to do was cut strips out of the foam board. The foam board, this stuff's all, it's all warped out and couldn't use it because it wouldn't go flat and the panels need a flat substrate. But what I was thinking was cutting little strips, little half-inch strips of the foam board and little dab of hot glue and gluing each panel, have three panels this way, lay 3 panels out, and just tiny little dabs of hot glue and glue in a piece of foam board to them so you could handle those panels as a unit.
As 4 panels at a time.
At a time while you solder them together, and it keeps them flush and flat and keeps them all in position, and then you can run the tabbing wire. It's roughly, I think it's an 1/8 inch gap I set for the centers of the panels, but I might have widened it out a little bit. So it might be a 1/4 inch gap in between each panel.
Okay.
But you can tell when you lay them out in the mold where they need to be. What I would do is I would flip this and lay out the 4 panels. Or actually, this is 3 panels. 1, 2, 3, and then get them spaced where I wanted, and then get my hot glue gun and go dab, 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 and just put that on there. And then when you get your wires all soldered up on it, you can hit it with a little heat gun and soften the hot glue up and pop the
Panels off away from the foam?
The foam off of the top of the panels. But I was just thinking like a carrier going down just a strip going down the center that just kind of held those in place during the tabbing process would make it super duper easier.
Okay, so like maybe like a rubber band around a strip of foam?
No. Rubber band's squeezy.
You're right.
You can't squeeze. It has to be the only thing I could think is like a little dab of hot glue, because these panels will take quite a bit of heat.
Okay, so let's just melt the hot glue afterwards.
Yeah.
Right,
I'm talking like a pinhead size.
Okay.
Like just a little tiny little. It doesn't have to, because these are so light. It really doesn't have to be much.
And you want the back of the panels to go directly on the wood.
Yeah.
Okay, no foam between the panels and the wood.
No, you don't need to.
You don't think that would help at all as far as the shock absorption? Like, what if someone like
I think
hit the back of this real hard and then broke them?
then they're a fucking idiot. I think the
What the,
don't punch the solar panel.
What?
The closer that these can be to this board, and the more attached they can be to this board,
Yeah.
the better it is. Anything that goes under there is gonna allow stuff to bend and move. Like, I can't break that panel, right? But if I put like anything under it, it's really well. Actually, it didn't break.
But
I'll be damned. Yeah, but it's much easier to break it if it's got something under it. If they're stuck right to the top of there, and then like once you get this strip completed, these tab wires actually hang out over the edge here. The bus wires will come up over the edge, so you have your strip of foam in here and these mounted, and you run your tabs, and you have to flip it over to do the backs and flip it over to do the tops. When you get it done, you lift it up, flip it over and solder the negatives, and then fold the whole thing back down, and before you set it, I forgot what I was talking about.
Separate the heat gun, the glue.
Oh yeah, you just set those panels down. If fold this up, and if you wanted to glue them down with something, you could maybe use a spray adhesive or something like that.
Okay.
And shoot the back of the panels and shoot the board, and then lay them down, and then fold the positives over, and then fold the tabs on, and then they'll be mounted to this board. That'd probably be a good idea, the spray adhesive, and that'll
spray adhesive directly onto the wood.
Onto the wood and onto the backs of the panels.
Both
Yeah.
surfaces. They clean them like fuck, and then.
Well, yeah, they don't need to be super duper clean for spray adhesive. That stuff's gnarly. But if you just put a light coat on that and a light coat on this, and have your 1 through 3 panels stuck to your foam board and have them all tabbed together, then you bring it, set it down here, and solder your 2 negative bus wires over and put a little loop in them so they fold back over themselves. Spray, and then lay it down, smooth it out, and make sure they're stuck, and then you can take the heat gun on the top and heat the panel up right next to where the hot glue dots are.
Okay.
And they're just tiny dots, but just heat the panel up next to that, and then it'll just, your foam will come off. And if there's a little nubbin of hot glue left on the panel, you can just roll it off with your finger.
Okay, I'll run it off like a rubber.
Yeah, you can scrape it off with your finger, and it'll just roll right off there. But that was the conclusion that I came to after, I don't know, 2-3 hours of trying to
do
bus wires and do it without breaking them.
Okay, so you put them facing the strip of fucking foam, and then wire them in. Well, wire in one side because you have to wire them in top back, right?
Yeah. So
and then put the face after that procedure's been partially done. Put the face against the foam, hot glue just to tack, and then finish the wiring, and then flip it over. Once and you say the tabs. The tabs are going to run out through the wood right there, or
they actually. Let me get this out one more time.
What are those things
you're getting at? Bus wires.
Bus wires. So the bus wire will go around this corner there and connect the next series.
Yeah, but they'll also, like, say if you need, like, let me get one out that has the little tangs on it, so it makes sense. So like this one, let's say. See, that goes there. So that one is going to get, you'll put some strip on here, like say, imagine this is upside down, and then put a little bend in it, and then you'll solder that to there, and then fold that back over. You know what I mean? I wish the wire was coming off the correct side of the panel, but if that had a little loop in it, you soldered that there, and the foam core is here, and all the panels are stuck to the foam core. Solder that, spray adhesive it, and then fold it over on itself. And then on the other end, because this is negative, the other end is going to have little tangs like this. So when it gets over there, these are actually going to be bent over and sticking up. So you push these back down or whatever. Well, they'll be, the one for that side has them pointing So when you lay the whole thing down, so you've got all your panels here, you spray it on the bottom and you grab your little foam core and lay it down. This will sit in here like so, and then these will bend back over the top of it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, these actually get bent back like this, and then vertical. And I might be fucking this bus wire up. It might have a different purpose. What am I doing? Where is my mind? Yeah, I went the wrong way with it. So this is the right bus wire. This stuff's pretty flexible. You can't bend it back and forth a million times, but so see how those come out there? So that's obviously going to be a positive side, because your panel is going to end up laying right here. And see how these little tabs are that far in?
Mm-hmm.
It's that, and it'd be cool to stick these down as well. But so that'll go here, and then just the edge of the panel just barely goes over this. You can't put it over too far because it'll short. But there's, see, this will go here, and then these go like that, and then you solder them in. So the one side where it starts, they'll come off the bottom of the panel and be long and get hooked to a bar that looks like this,
Mm-hmm.
and then it'll come over and it'll sit down, and these will wrap over the top of it. That's how the bus bar system works. Yeah, I took pictures of all the bus bars laid out in the foam substrate,
Okay.
so you could look at them on a big screen and kind
That'll
of
help
jigsaw puzzle them where to go.
Yeah.
They all go along the edges except one of them over here comes out kind of to the middle.
Okay.
And then this one kind of comes over and goes kind of like that. It's all the clear stuff. So it would take me 4 times as long if I drew out everything. It's all in my head.
Hopefully I'll be able to figure it out with this camera.
Like I said too, if you want to come up to Concho and be like, hey, I'm fucking sticking off for a week, you know, you're welcome to come up and I can guide you through the process. I'm so rattled and shaky and need to use all my energy to finish my shit. It's been driving me insane for 5 years now. It's like shit or get off the pot time for me.
I'll do what I can to figure this out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I'll have to probably I mean, a lot of it seems simple, and the other parts. Actually, the wiring of the components actually seems a little easier.
Yeah, the wiring of the components is just hot in, or hot to the switch, then hot to this, and hot to that.
So that's pretty easy.
Yeah, I can draw you a diagram for that. That's really easy, and the diagram for the panels is not too tricky. It's just series, and you'll have a positive and negative, and the negative from this one will go to the positive of that one, and the negative from this one will go to the charge controller, and the positive from this string will go to the charge controller. Because you make these strings, and then you series them with these strings.
Okay. Hey, you think John would be cool if I came back and got those elbows another time, or is he fucking?
He doesn't care. I don't know what's going on around here. Just today, John Sr. realized that Pat and Peggy are the problem. So he's like, I don't care if you fire those motherfuckers. Johnny's like, dude, we've been telling you this for how many years?
John to Senior?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, how the fuck, why didn't anything get done around there? I guess there's all kinds of, they're causing all kinds of problems with not paying contractors and having them getting sued. And
oh shit, that's a big deal.
oh yeah, all kinds of nightmare shit. And the contractor they paid is their IT guy, so he hacked them. They wouldn't pay him, so he got in and like was sending them their own emails back and forth, and like it was pretty funny. I'm like, awesome dude, I love that guy. So he's like, no dude, he's a dick. He thousands of dollars of work in the future if you just shut the fuck up and let me talk. Fuck you! I don't want your fucking work. Ah! Peggy got him so mad. All he could do is just fucking scream.
Pat?
Peggy.
Oh, yeah. Who mad though? Peggy got so mad.
Pat got the IT guy, or Peggy got the IT guy because she didn't pay him. She's like, well, you didn't send me an invoice, so I can't send you a check. And so he went into her computer through remote in and stopped everything they were doing in the office, like locked all the computers down, and picked her email up, opened it up for her on her desktop. It's like, it's right here, you fucking moron. This is your computer I'm in right now. You need to pay me.
IT guy is good.
It's not hard. You have to remote in to set up networking and set up all the crap on those computers for the POS point of sale system stuff. It's not rocket science to remote in. Just use remote desktop. But they were all like, it's magic, he hacked us, he's hacked our system, and trying to cause it. They were like, we should report him, and there's this big drama shit going on. I can't find the solar panels.
Right.
Are they in there? Oh.
Is this mine or yours?
That's mine.
Okay. Put it right here.
Something I should be using tonight.
So you're still not smoking weed, huh?
I smoked weed today. It made me feel terrible.
So you're quitting, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
I think I'm over it. It just makes me feel like shit now.
Really?
Yeah. And well, actually, Phil brought over a little joint.
Yeah.
And I smoked that, and I was like, oh, wow. And like, my fucking neck turned into like, from like a stiff, angry fucking burning red iron something. It turned from that into like a noodle, and I was like, oh, this feels so good. And then I did a dab, and then I got all like hot and sweaty and fucking nasty feeling and nauseous and
Really?
yeah. Yep.
Wow.
I think I'm over the.
This has a bit of weight to it.
Kind of has. I mean, I can't figure out a thinner structure because these are. If these were plastic or something.
Yeah.
You know, or if these were that flexible stuff, they'd only be 12% efficient instead of 30% efficient. But it's way lighter than the metal one.
Yeah.
It's probably half as light as the metal one.
Actually, when everything's strapped on, I mean, because all the components aren't that heavy.
Yeah, no, they're not heavy. I mean, the panels weigh nothing. And also, you know, the better way to measure the weight is picking it up like that. Picking it up like this, you've got all the leverage working against
Yeah.
you. But
yeah, it's not so bad.
It's like 6 pounds.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
Less than a gallon of water to power your house and start your car.
Not bad.
You know, and this is, like I said, it's a big one. We could make smaller ones that are just USB.
But this
that don't have the DC to DC.
This would be good for multiple purposes.
Yeah. No, this is like the party home, you know, festival version.
Yeah.
Yeah, the backpack version could be much smaller. But you know what? Those Goal Zero ones that have the panels that fold out that are $180 or whatever,
yeah.
They're 15 watts.
That's nothing really. How much is this going to be?
90.
Wow.
So it's a whole different level of critter. Actually, I put this in here. You can practice on it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for getting as much as you could, dude.
Said if I get up there and I'm like, oh cool, this land is gonna work, and I fucking get the bus moved over to it, because the thing is, like, this is gonna be stacked up to here,
full of shit.
You know, right. So it's not like I can just pull over on the side of the road and I'm gonna go work.
Yeah.
I have to unload a bunch of shit outside, and but the bus has all kinds of storage on the underside of it, so if I can get it out of there and get it parked somewhere.
So you think your mom's gonna help you with some a place, a property?
She goes back and forth. I don't know what her deal is. She wants me to just barely be able to survive. You know, that's why I'm getting all like, it's like, you know, I get enough help to barely survive, and the only reason I need that help is because I'm using my time in civilization, not hunting, not fishing, not trapping, not doing other things. I'm in civilization fixing things for people, basically, and doing projects for other people, and all I'm doing is barely surviving. You know, I'm not thriving. No one's like, hey man, let's work on your shit for a day or two, you know, and that just doesn't happen. Or if it does, it's like, okay, what can we do?
Causes more problems.
Yeah. So that's why I'm all freaked out. I need to get to the point where I'm like, don't have to worry, like, oh fuck, am I gonna get pulled over and put in jail next month? So sick of worrying about that. And I've got all these parts. Look at that trike. Look at that trike.
Yeah, I hope you get the trike done.
I will. There's that. I've got aluminum to make shit with. I've got rivets. My welder's fucking out of gas, so I'm not going to be welding anything anytime soon.
What kind of argon? Or
yeah, actually argon CO2 mix would be
the shit.
the shit. Yeah, a little more.
Oh man. Yeah, well, fuck, dude. I hope this thing. Yeah, good luck on your voyage there. That's gonna be fucking. Yeah, it is still, light enough.
Yeah, it fits in the car. Strap it to a backpack if you wanted to.
Turn it.
The panels being the .587 volts and getting the voltage up above the battery pack. The battery pack run inverters.
Yeah.
If you didn't want to run the inverter off of it, if you just wanted it to be USB,
Yeah.
And then you could get away with a lot less panels.
Yeah, make it smaller.
Yeah, because you only need 5 volts for USB. So that would be 12 panels.
Well, your trailer looks nice.
It's getting there. Oh, I have to put. In the morning, I have to put like a couple screws along the bottom edge in the front and in the back. Maybe 8 screws total, just so the sides don't pop off.
Yeah, I was saying, like, don't. I mean, it looks good, but I don't know if it looks indestructible.
Well, these need to screw into the metal back underneath there, and all the screws that I had wouldn't go through. That's why I got those other ones.
So I mean, it's ready. It's not. Have you seen the weather conditions? I mean, there's not supposed
beautiful.
to be. It's not supposed to be rainy, but I mean, the wind or nothing is not gonna fucking tornado this thing apart, is it?
You know what's funny? Well, it's all steel frame. The whole inside's steel frame.
And it's mounted firmly.
It's solid as shit.
Okay.
But yeah, and when I set this down on the truck, normally when you set a trailer hitch, especially one with a really long tongue like this, and all the weight on the tongue.
Yeah.
When you set it on a vehicle, it goes, you know.
Yeah.
When I set this on there, it just like doesn't move. The truck has no idea that there's a trailer hooked up to it.
Just because of the placement of the wheels and the.
Because the fucking truck is so huge. The truck's
Yeah, I mean,
designed to carry 20-some thousand pounds, and that's probably only 1,000 pounds. So it doesn't even feel it. It doesn't even move the springs.
Yeah, I like what you did with that.
It's been a lot of work, but yeah, all the wires ran. This is for the lights. Actually, that's an extension cord, but yeah, these are the light wires. So I just have to hook those up to there. So that plugs into the truck, and then take the lights back there and cut some holes in the bumper and stick them in it.
So you're totally illegal right now, or you will be at that point.
I'm actually, totally legal. Actually.
Wow.
The truck has a good tag. The trailer will have a good tag until November 1st, and then totally legal for the road. But I'm gonna be smoking like a freight train because I filled both tanks up straight with oil today.
Well, maybe your this trailer will diffuse some of the smoke a little bit.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I thought about putting a sign on the back window, "Sorry about the smoke, fix her when I get home," or something like that. Write it in redneck,